So welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Tips. Now in today's episode, we'll be discussing a dilemma that many buyers face, and that is the interest rates are so high now, I better wait for the rates to come down first before I make any purchase. Now if we were to look at just the rates itself, it is understandable why many would think that way. However, while we are worried about the high interest rates, what many tend to overlook would be the way property prices would be impacted when the rates eventually fall. Now, and I use the word when and not if because current interest rates will eventually have to come down. Now you see, interest rates is just like a tap that monetary authorities in the world releases or tightens to tackle inflationary environment. So higher interest rates are meant to curb spending, reduce the money running in the system, and eventually lead to lowered inflation. And just like what the Fed has been trying to achieve through recent rounds of federal rate hikes. But high interest rates is really temporary because it will hurt businesses when people spend less. So if you look at this graph, interest rates will not remain high forever, and it actually will be adjusted upwards or downwards based on that current inflation situation at the moment. So just last Tuesday, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell shared that the disinflationary process has started with the recent round of rate hikes. So back to the question, if we know that interest rates will eventually fall, then shouldn't we wait to buy? So let's take a closer look at what is likely going to happen to property prices when interest rates fall. So imagine with me, if you were to wake up to this news tomorrow morning. Okay, so imagine yourself as a homeowner in one of this situation. So if you own one or two properties today, would you fire sale your place or sell it at a discount when you see the headlines? So definitely not, because I know that more buyers would not hesitate to take loans at a low interest, especially when I'm going to enjoy a lock-in rate for the next few years. So as a seller, I would definitely increase my selling price because my buyers now have more purchasing power. Now, if you're a buyer or investor waiting on the sideline, waiting for the rates to finally fall, what would you do if you see these headlines? Now, you would definitely want to rush into buy now, especially the rates are so low. Now, if you are a developer launching a new condo, what would you do? Now, you will definitely raise the launch prices because you know that your buyers have now more purchasing power and there is demand. Now, what if you bought your property last year in January in 2022 for your own stay and you see this news tomorrow morning in 2023? Would you suddenly want to fire sale your place or sell it cheap? Definitely not, especially when you will incur seller's stamp duty for selling within 3 years. You are going to incur bank charges for early termination of the loan, and you already paid 25% plus 4% of down payment and buyer's stamp duty, and you bought this place exactly because you like it, right? For your own stay, kids' school likely nearby, you're very familiar with the area, you're unlikely to fire sale your place now. What if you're a foreign investor who already owns 3 to 4 properties? Would you suddenly fire sale your place when you see these headlines? Definitely not as well, especially when you have already paid ABSD for those 3 to 4 properties, and now if you sell them and you buy another one, you're going to incur the new ABSD of 30%. So what I would do is I would just continue rent out, collect the rent in the strong Sing dollar, and then wait for my properties to appreciate in value. I mean, there's no motivation for me to sell at this moment, much less selling it cheap. So if you were to look at the last 7 rounds of interest rate hikes, property prices increased in 6 rounds except for the Asian financial crisis, which was when the cooling measures were not yet introduced in Singapore. So therefore, with interest rates eventually coming down, sellers actually have no reason to sell their homes cheap. And so we expect property prices to continue to rise with increasing demand and a higher purchasing power. So at the end of the day, it is no longer an issue of waiting for the rates to come down, but rather, as we wait, home prices will likely become more expensive and our monthly mortgage will also increase because as we wait, the loan tenure also becomes shorter. So thank you for listening to the end, and I hope you found this useful. I'll see you in the next episode.